What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Barber Block Podcast AZ. Hopefully, you've been checking out all the other episodes. Today, we've got another special guest as we talk to real barbers, real people, and real talk. And we're here to inspire, to share, to educate, and just uplift the barbering community and show you what's possible. So today, we have a special guest. His name is David Kobos, going by D-Boy. Help me welcome D-Boy this morning.
Thank you for having me out this early morning after a long night last night. Went to probably one of the best concerts ever in my life.
Yes, sir.
The Harry Mack concert.
Yeah, how was that?
It's his whole concert's what we're about to do today. Just freestyle.
Yes, sir.
Nothing scripted, nothing, a couple little probably setups and stuff, but nothing written.
Yes, sir.
So
let's get into it.
Let's see if we could do this.
All right. So let's start off with the name D-Boy. Yes. How did that come about?
So it's good and it's bad because the good thing is one of my best friends gave me that name back in junior high, 6th grade, around there. And it's because there was a real popular rapper, Christian rapper, named D-Boy out of San Diego. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was real into talent shows and performing and dancing and doing all that. He gave me the name. He's like, I'm going to start calling you D-Boy. Okay. But it was based off of that rapper from San Diego. Well, now you fast forward, 15, 20 years, D-Boy has a whole different meaning. Than it did back then. So I get the, you the D-Boy? Oh, okay, you the one we come to? I get a lot of that stuff. And mine came from 6th grade, 7th grade, when I didn't even know why they were calling me D-Boy. And it stuck. And then plus my first initials, D. I played the drums, drummer boy. It could be whatever you want, but it's not the second part.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, I can see where that could get mixed up.
Yeah. So where are you originally from?
So I'm raised in Phoenix. I'm from here, but I was born in Roswell, New Mexico.
Okay.
And that's where my family's from. And but my mom and dad moved here. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. So I went to elementary school here in Guadalupe at Frank School. Mm-hmm. Went to Gillen Junior High, and then went to Tempe High School.
Okay.
And graduated in 99, class of 98.
All right, class of 98, 99. Okay.
Yeah, it took my brain a little bit more to develop, so.
Needed that extra year?
Yeah. They wanted an extra year with me.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, it's all good. So what point did you decide to, that hair was something you wanted to get into barbering?
In high school, I don't even know how I ended up with clippers, but I ended up being the neighborhood barber. And somehow there was clippers in the house, and I still don't know why we had clippers because no one cut hair. And I would just started cutting the friend's hair, and it'd be some of the worst haircuts on the planet. And, there's a few stories of some of my friends having some very, very interesting haircuts in high school. But now that I look back on them, it's funny and stuff like that. But, I mean, I thought they looked really good back then. But now that I look back at them, it's like, ooh, yeah, my friends were walking around with those. So that's high school. I had some friends that let me basically use them as guinea pigs.
What was that first haircut like? What kind of style was that? Well, first off, what clipper was it? Do you remember the clipper?
Probably one of them, like Walgreens, like what was like the first brands back then. I think it started with Conair.
Conair.
Probably a Conair clipper.
Okay.
Yeah, that's taking it back right there. Yeah, it was probably a Conair clipper.
Yeah. And so what was that first haircut like? Do you remember who it was the very first time?
I don't remember who it was, but I won't say it was a fade because nothing I did back then was a fade, and there were more bowl haircuts.
Yeah,
chili bowl. A chili bowl haircut, but not like a hardcore chili bowl, like a Dumb and Dumber chili bowl haircut. It was more like couldn't blend the line right.
Gotcha.
But as long as it was zeroed out on the bottom, My friends were happy.
It didn't matter.
No,
that was it.
And luckily back then, the edge ups weren't that popular, designs, none of that stuff. So it was just like, oh, as long as I ain't walking around with hair, that you can pull on the side of the head.
Yeah.
My friends are happy.
Yeah.
Plus they were free. Yeah.
So at what point did you start charging? Was it not until you actually decided to go to barber school, or was there a point before then you started charging?
I think it was right about the time I was in school. It's when I started charging what they were charging in school. So I think I was charging like $5 for a haircut. And then as I started to get a little better, it went up to $7.
Yeah.
$7. And then, so you know what I'm doing right now, Lamar?
What's that?
I'm showing my age. Because haircuts aren't $7 no more.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So when I started cutting, the average price of a haircut was about $10.
Yeah.
15 was like a pricey haircut.
Right.
And I started 5 and then 7 and then even into my professional. I think my first price as a professional was like $9.
Yeah. I remember those days, before having to pay my own haircuts. $5 was the haircut at the barbershop, not even at the school, just at the barbershop, $5. And then
and that was in California too.
California, yeah. And then when I lived in LA, I went to one of the best barbers around, and she was charging $10. And so everybody thought that was expensive, back in the 90s. So, but I had her on auto pay. Every week she was getting a check, through the mail. That's how it was delivered. It wasn't,
Lamar's showing his age now.
There was no Zelle.
Yeah. He said check.
A check in
now
the mail.
For you young barbers, what a check is it's a piece of paper. Man. So I'm talking about $7. You're talking about checks.
So how old are you anyway?
42.
Okay, I think I'm 46.
46?
45.
How old do you tell people you are?
40 something.
40 something.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I'm still 39.
All right. So in while you were in barber school, so what was that decision that you made? Like, okay, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go to barber school and become a barber. What was that trigger? You're cutting hair in high school and you're doing that. And at what point did you make the decision that this is what I wanted to do?
I think it was when I got good at it. Because the way it transitioned was my first job. Well, I mean, aside from like paper routes and a car wash when I was like 15. Mm-hmm. My first job was at JCPenney outlet. I was 16. And then when I turned 17, almost going to turn 18, that's when I found out I was going to have my first kid. Mm. And then I was working at JCPenney making, this going to time me again, like $6.75 was like minimum wage back then or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was making that, and that was cool for me, just me.
Yeah.
When you find out you're going to have find out you're going to have your first kid, $6-7 an hour ain't going to put food on the table.
Right.
So right about that time was when I turned 18 when he was born. And I actually was really lucky to get a job early at a bank. Mm. And so I worked at a bank for 2 years, and then I was making $10 an hour.
Big money.
Yeah, big money. I went up. I think they even paid me a little bit more because I was bilingual.
Yeah.
But at that point right there, that's when, I was working the bank, and it was cool. The pay was cool and everything. But then I was like, this really ain't for me. Like, I didn't see a future in Wall Street or being a broker or none of that stuff. And I was picking up steam more on cutting hair, I guess you could say. I was actually getting good, getting better. So then I went into school.
So while you were working these jobs, you were still cutting.
Yeah. So it was tough for the first year, I always say. And then my oldest son knows this. For the first year, basically that he was alive, I would only see him in the morning. He'd be asleep. And when I come home at night, he'd be asleep because I worked all day and then I went to night school.
Okay.
Yeah. And because of the distances that I had to travel from work here to school over here, and then I lived over here, there was like no in between. Like, I'm gonna just run home real quick, and then there wasn't no FaceTimes or none of that stuff yet. So I literally only seen him for like I seen him on days off and stuff like that, but I would see him asleep and then see him asleep.
Yeah.
So,
and how did that make you feel? Like this is, you're making the sacrifice so that things could be better, but at the same time, in that present, you can't see your son. How did that make you feel?
It was tough because I did feel like I was making like a huge sacrifice because, at 18, 19 years old, a lot of my friends were going to Rocky Point. They were going to California on the regular. They were having like what 18, 19, 20-year-olds do. They were
living their best life.
Yeah, and I never got to do none of that.
Yeah.
Because I was always either working or going to school or just with the kid.
Yeah. So you had to grow up real fast. Mature.
Very fast. Yeah. Very fast.
Yeah. So you took on that responsibility and decided to go ahead and make the sacrifice. And then, after you finished barbering school, how long did it take you to finish?
Well, it should have took me. If I would have went full time, I think it would have took me about 9 months, 9 months. Mm-hmm. But because I was only going like 4 hours a night, and then I think it took me almost like a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty close to a year and a half.
A year and a half. And so once you finished, where was the first shop you went to?
I never worked in a shop.
Never worked in a shop?
No. I went straight into my own shop.
Wow.
In 2001. And right out of school. And, me and my dad, we were just driving around one day, and, he brought up the idea of opening like a shop, barbershop and stuff. And, my dad had his own career. He didn't cut hair, didn't know nothing about hair cutting. All he knew how to do was, pay for a haircut, basically.
Right.
And then, so we're driving around, and we just happened to be driving around, like on, I guess like the east side of Tempe, kind of like McClintock and Apache Boulevard area.
Yeah.
And there was a big empty plaza, and on the sign, it said "Coming Soon, Food City." And for those of you watching, Food City back then was like, what's Ralph's, like the Mexican Ralph's. Okay. You know what I mean? So right. We saw that, and we were like, oh.
I don't know if anybody knows what Ralph's is, but
Ralph's,
I know what
fries,
Ralph's is.
Yeah, fries. It was like the Mexican version of those grocery stores.
Yeah.
And so we seen that, and then we, pulled up to the window, or to the pulled into the plaza, and started looking in the windows, because everything was like solid, like either covered or like solid tint, like two-way glass almost. And I think in that plaza there was only like a dollar store, because you could tell they were remodeling it because they were about to put Food City, so they wanted to bring it up. And there was like a dollar store and a pool hall. And I noticed next door to the Food City there was a empty building. And I started looking in there, and it just looked trashed, like if somebody had like ransacked the place. But you couldn't see it from the street because of the two-way glass. So the number's out on the street, the landlord. We call the landlord, and like, hey, you renting out the space next to the Food City? And he was like, which space? I said, right next door, the 1336. And then he says, no, that's a Chiba Hut. I said, oh, did their lease up, or did they move out? And he was like, no, they're through, I forgot the date he said. I was like, there's nothing in there. I was like, as a matter of fact, the place is trashed. And then the guy was like, excuse me? I was like, yeah, 1336. The building's vacant. And he was like, let me come down there real quick, and can you hang around there for a little bit? And we're like, yeah. So me and my dad just hang around for a little bit, and then this guy pulls up like in a Bentley or something. I don't know. It's Michael Pollock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ridiculous money.
Yeah.
And he pulls up, and he comes and looks in there, and I mean, you can just tell he was fumed. Like something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Chiba had just up and left.
Trashed the place.
It wasn't okay. So it wasn't trashed.
Okay.
Like they ransacked the place, but what it was they took all their stuff and just like took it out.
Yeah.
So it looked like there was just wires and stuff hanging from everywhere.
Yeah.
But from the outside, it looks like if somebody had just like, blew through town and took everything with them real quick. And so within 48 hours, we had a lease.
Wow.
And that's how it happened.
So you go straight from barber school to becoming a business owner.
I was in barber school still.
You were still in school.
Yeah. I was still in school. I hadn't I don't think I had completed my hours yet. I was like very, very close. That's why we were just kind of looking around at stuff and at locations.
And did you really fully understand what you were getting into?
Not at all. Not at all. I understood like business a little bit because of being at the bank. So that did prepare me for that a little bit, but I had no business. You know, you got to remember I had only done retail at JCPenney and then the bank, which are two good jobs to prepare you for. You know, I was like service desk and customer service got me ready for like interacting with customers. The bank interacting. I mean, if you want to see somebody on a good day or a bad day, mess with someone's money.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that got me prepared real quick to mess, you know, to interact with customers and stuff. Well, now I'm messing with their hair.
Yeah.
So it's like it's money and hair is
Money
important,
and hair,
you know. And so yeah, it just it was something that you know, I kind of just gravitated to the barbering, you know, like I said, got good at, and that was it.
Yeah. So opening the shop, tell me about some of the challenges that you had, not really even having the experience of necessarily working in a shop, just going to the school, probably doing cuts on the floor at the school, but just going into that, what were some of the challenges that you faced once you got into the process? What were some of the things you had to learn real fast?
So basically is like, when I first got into it, one of the big issues that we had was, you know, equipment. And when I say equipment, I don't mean tools. I mean, like stations and chairs and stuff like that. And it was like, hey, where do we get that? And, so we started looking around and, you know, in 2001, there was not a lot of places in the Phoenix metro area that sold barber chairs and stuff like that. And if they did, they were very expensive. So if you're trying to get into a barbershop, you know, $1,000 a chair is a lot.
Right.
You know, $1,200-$1,500 a chair is a lot for a cooking chair.
Yeah.
And then, so I can't remember where we found a bunch of chairs, and you know, we made it nice when we opened up, but it was basically 4 white walls, black and white checkered tile. And then we found somebody, I want to say maybe through like a Sally's catalog or something, where I found some stations, and we put them up, and that was it. But honestly, that was probably the biggest challenge, was the first shop, not knowing nobody. Because again, I didn't have nobody in the hair industry to like show me like, hey, you know, like the way I do people now.
Right.
When people, hey, where do you get these? Where do you get those? Oh, let me send you a contact.
Yeah.
Let me send you a contact. I didn't have none of that.
Right.
So it was like I had to find everything. You got to remember, there was no Google. There was no, you know, it was phone books.
No Facebook, no Instagram.
None of that. I couldn't reach out, you know, and this is one of my pet peeves when people go on Facebook and they're like, recommendations, or where can I get good Mexican food in Chandler? It's like, Google it. You know what I mean? Like,
read the reviews.
Yeah, Google it. The way you just typed it on Facebook, Google it. But there was none of that. So we had to figure it all out. Yeah. So that was my biggest obstacle, opening a shop.
So how long did it take you once you signed that lease to get up and running, like full-fledged shop, and you started taking in customers or clients?
It's interesting because we signed the lease, I don't know, I want to say like in, let's say like July-ish, because I remember it was like blazing summer hot. So it was like July-ish, around there. And the schedule was supposed to be like 2 to 3 months, because they were going to rebuild it. And, you know, that was one thing Michael Pollock was real good about, is if you became a tenant, you know, he gave you a good allowance to help you paint the walls and plumbing and improvements and stuff. Yeah. So, you know, that was supposed to take a little bit, but then, you know, you fast forward a few months to September of 2001. We all know what happened on 9/11. And that halted everything. Everything came to a stop. And some of the, I can't remember, somebody in Pollock's family or in the people that were doing the build out was affected immediately by what happened in 9/11. And so it took another extra month on top of what we were already, you know, just the world shutting down and all that stuff. So we didn't actually open until like the end of November. right before Christmas.
So that was about 4 months to build out and to open. And so what did you immediately have traffic flow, or what happened when you opened those doors?
Well, luckily, so coming out of 9/11, we all know the economy was hit hard. You know, stuff was barely coming. A lot of people were scared just to even be out.
Yeah.
And then kind of like the world we're in now.
Yeah.
It what's it called? Was cool because the Food City had just opened up. So they had a lot of the neighborhood traffic coming in there.
Yeah.
And then and remind me to tell you in a second about your customers in barber school. So just remind me in a minute when I'm done, all right? And so I was able to like open the doors up and get some of that walk-in foot traffic. And then plus you had the pool hall still open. So we would get a couple of the pool players that would come over there and try us out. There was apartments right across the street. People would walk over and try us out and stuff. And that's how I was able to build the business.
So it was all about your location.
It was pure location.
Yeah. Did you foresee that in advance when you picked that location? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing is so in 2001, Apache Boulevard was the stroll. You know what I mean? It was the strip.
Right.
Whatever you wanted, it was anything you wanted, was on Apache Boulevard at that time. So rent was a lot lower. So being next to a Food City now or any grocery store,
it's expensive.
I mean, you're giving an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
But back then, because they were trying to revitalize the neighborhood and, just clean it up a little bit, it wasn't that expensive. So we didn't have a tremendous overhead. Again, we got the bare minimum to open a business and pass inspection and open and stuff. And the rent wasn't that high, thankfully. And right away, I was able to get, some barbers because at that time there wasn't 1,000 barbershops. There was. So when barbers came out of school, there was a few select barbershops that people wanted to work at, barbers wanted to work at. And because of the location, people assumed next to a grocery store, it's going to be foot traffic. So that was one thing when I would hire barbers. I didn't have to speak much on the location. You see it next to a grocery store.
Grocery store,
you're going to get walk-ins.
Yeah, across the street.
Yeah, ASU's a mile away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't tough to get barbers back then.
What was the name of that shop, the first shop?
Draven's Barbershop.
Draven's,
and that's my oldest son. We named it after.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
So he got lucky. Yeah. Named it after him. It could have been David's or D-Boys.
D-Boys.
Or Dad's or something. I don't know. But it was Draven's. Yeah.
So what'd you say, customers, your barber students as customers? Or something
okay, so
that? What's that about?
This is to all the barbers out there that are in barber school. Which camera am I looking at, Tix? I'm going to talk directly to barbers in barber school. Okay. Whatever customers you have in barber school today, 90% of them are not going to follow you out into the real world. And a lot of it has to do with the price. Okay. So that was one thing, is when I was in barber school, I would go, it was like a job.
Yeah.
I had people waiting for me when I got to school.
Yeah.
And I would stay sometimes after school. I would have to clock out because of the hours thing, but I would still do the cuts and stuff, because ultimately barber school is a business. They're paying. That's how they keep their lights on.
Right.
And so I thought when I would go into the barbershop, oh, man, I got at least 30, 40 heads that are going to follow me. Man, as soon as they heard my price got bumped up like $3-4,
they're like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, I may be seeing like 5 of them. Yeah. But that wasn't just me. That's everybody. Everybody I knew was like, oh, I was the man in barber school. Yeah.
Right.
Well, back then you were the man, homie.
Right. And those people probably were going there before you even went to school there, right? Seeing another barber possibly.
Probably, or they were just a bunch of broke ballers.
Yeah.
They just, they were big time paying the $5, but
Right.
then, hey, my haircuts are going to be $9 now.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was getting my haircuts in high school, I remember my barber, and a lot of people that are from like South Phoenix area will remember the Cubano, Jose Luis. He was on Central and Broadway, but he used to be on 48th Street and Southern. That's when we started going to him. And his haircuts were only $6. And I remember he moved to Central and Broadway. And I remember you could see the hurt in his soul when he had to tell us that his haircuts went up $1
$1, yeah,
to $7 now. They went up $7 or $1. They're $7 now. But the way he told us is like if he told us, "Hey, my haircuts are $1,000 now." What? No, it was like $1. But that's where the barber world was in 2001.
Yeah, that dollar, that's a more than 10% increase.
Yeah, now it's $50.
Yeah, minimal.
Just to walk in a room and and see all the cameras and
All right, so fast forward, you got
ring lights and cameras in every barbershop now.
Right, you got Draven's going on. Draven's the first shop. So how long were you there? Because you opened up another one after that, right?
Yeah.
So what was that time frame between the first shop and the second shop?
2001, and then I opened the second one in 2013. And that wasn't because I took that long to open another one. It's just in that whole time, I was also working too. So like the quality of our cuts that was going on at Draven's, number one was the reputation was really good. Of course, every barbershop gets some bad barbers and, you get some complaints here and there or whatever. But for the most part, I had a strong core for a lot of years.
Yeah. So how did you build that team to get that? Obviously your location was able to drive people, they wanted to be there, but what was it that kept them there?
Personality. Yeah. Everybody knew they'd come into the shop and get a good haircut, but they were going to get some good conversation. I was going to be in there, roasting anybody that walked in that shop. I didn't care what color you were, how big you were, if you walked in there or if you drove up in a Bentley, you got roasted. One of your experiences in Draven's, you got roasted. Yeah. And I would get it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was fun times. Or they knew that JJ, barber I had for a long time, was going to show you some, MMA moves or wrestle with you on the floor or something. Like something was going to happen. And Angela, who actually owns the shop now, and I don't want to get too far into the interview, but she worked for me from the day I opened.
Yeah. And
she owns the shop now to this day and runs it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was able, I had some barbers that were with me, 2-3 years here and there, a year there, a year here. But JJ was with me, I want to say, for about 12, 13 years. And then he was still there after I sold the shop to Angela. And then Angela was there with me from day one.
So you had some loyalty there.
Yeah. And I think so you're asking like what I think did it was, I think just me being there and cutting and being good at it and being a part of bringing in this culture like to the shop and like making it the spot. I had a big, part to do with it. Obviously they had a really big part to do with it too, but my goal was to just keep all that together because everybody that we brought in that was only there for a few months or a year or whatever, everybody knew there was the core. It was me, JJ, and Angela. And either one of us could cut your hair.
Right.
Like JJ was better than I was. Angela was as good as I was, but faster. So people knew if they wanted a hour-long fade and get roasted, they come to me. Right. If they wanted to, leave out of there with the bruises and stuff and got a good haircut, they go to JJ. But if they needed to be out of there quick, but needed a good haircut, they sat with Angela.
Wow.
Yeah. So
everybody had their own strengths, and
everybody, and then we all fed off each other too. Yeah. We all fed off each other, and like any other barbershop, you have your issues and stuff like that, but we work them out. JJ's like my brother, Angela's like my sister. And we're still tight to this day. We still talk. I still go see Angela. I still drop in and see JJ. And, it's cool that like I built those relationships with them even after, because I know some barbers that never get along with their boss or vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's like, not me. Our kids grew up. I watched their kids grow up and they watched my kids grow up. Yeah. So I think camaraderie, but definitely that shop was built yes, off of a good haircut, but personality.
Yeah.
It was personality.
Yeah. So fast forward to Draven's number 2. Mm-hmm. You open up the second shop, and what was that experience like, having to pretty much kind of start over and building another team, and then managing 2 locations?
That's where it got tough. It got, I opened it, and my goal was to, obviously expand the income, but, I was going to take that step into creating like a chain. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, now I'm going to try and, expand. It's been 12, 13 years. And, I had this opportunity to get that location on Mill and Broadway in Tempe, right across the street from my old high school. And,
this episode is brought to you by Leonetti's Barber Supply. We've been in the barber supply business since 1968, helping barbers deliver their best haircuts. We're located at 1633 East McDowell Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85006. We've got everything you need. We've got your clippers, we've got your trimmers, we've got your disinfectants, everything you need to help you deliver your best haircut. Now let's get back to this episode.
I got into it fairly quick. That one was interesting because, you drive past something so many times, you get used to it, and it's clockwork, right? Well, one day me and JJ were just driving by, and I was like, something looked different about that plaza. We went back, and the barber sign's gone, because there was a barbershop.
There was a barbershop there.
Yeah, but the big barbershop sign was gone. I was like, pull in there real quick. We pulled in there, and sure enough, the barbershop was gone. The barbershop that had been there for years, the guy or the lady had sold it, or I forgot what she did. But anyway, this was like around Thanksgiving weekend, like around that time frame. And I remember, it's going to sound repetitive like the other story, but calling the landlord because the number's on the door.
Yeah.
And, asked them if, what's up at the shop, at the location. And he's like, oh, yeah, you want to check it out? I was like, all right. Yeah. So we met there like the next day. Mm. And this guy don't know nothing about me and gives me a key, and it was like a Friday. And he tells me, I can meet you back here on Monday. I was like, okay. I went to give him his key back, and he's like, no. You keep the key. You check out the shop. You see what you want. And I'm like, okay, who does that? Like, right. You want to rent my house? Here, keep the key for the weekend. Check it out.
And, take it for a test drive.
Yeah, so I ended up, I had an uncle in town, and, he's very business smart, and, at the time he's retired now, but a producer for a movie company or a news anchor or whatever in Texas. And he gave me a lot of advice. And when I brought him into the shop to check it out, like, what do you think can be done here? Because it was pretty bad. It was in bad shape. And he looked at it, and just seeing his like imagination light up and what could be done. Oh, that's how I could do this. Mm. So I told the guy, yeah, I'll take it. And there was another one. What do you want? 6-month lease, 1-year lease, 2-year lease? I'm like, I'm used to doing like 5-year leases, 3-year leases. Pollock, Pollock don't mess around with them leases. Yeah. So, I signed a year lease just to try it out. Ended up keeping it for till about 2017 and sold it to Angel, and the shop's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I opened it, I had expectations of expanding and stuff. But when I opened it, I think that got me. Was like it was doing good. Both shops are doing great. Everybody was making money. Everybody was happy. But I think I just got burnt out. Mm. And not just burnt out on running a business, but just burnt out cutting completely. And
so you decided to kind of exit.
I had an exit strategy, though, which is right here. Iceberg Haircare. That was my exit strategy. So I didn't just try to exit with no idea of what I was going to do.
Right.
I think Iceberg kind of gave me another outlet, and I seen the potential in Iceberg. Yeah. And at that time, that's when you started getting the social media influence into barbering.
So you were in Draven's too, and I remember that's kind of when the iceberg line came about while you were still in there.
My styling gel.
Yes,
Yep.
and then so you had a plan. Did you know in advance, like, okay, this is going to be my exit strategy before it actually became your exit strategy?
No, because I mean, much like a lot of other barbers, I tried a few other things in the time of the barbershop. You know, selling phone cases, selling, you know, what sunglasses, you know, whatever, you know, to make extra income. And, you know, things just fizzle out after a while. But the gel, when I started, I remember I had it just in like little sample things, and we would slap a sticker on there that said Iceberg Haircare, because I didn't really have a lot of money to, like, you know,
For the production,
look like this now, you know. And I would use it on customers, and customers liked it. So I started figuring, like, well, you know what? Hair products ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. This could be something that I could expand on. And then I eventually put more effort into the styling gel. Mm-hmm. And once the styling gel started rolling, that's when I started, like, okay, I think it's time to maybe make a move. And that's when I was pretty much done.
Yeah. So what was you sold the first shop, Draven's 1, and you still were in Draven's 2, right? Is that how it worked?
Yeah.
Or
so the way it happened was Angela one day was asking me about, you know, and you just got to read between the lines. She was asking me one day about where did I get my stations made? Do I still have the guy's number, and blah blah blah, stuff like that. So
she was ready to make a move, or thinking about it.
She wasn't, according to her, she wasn't ready to make a move. I guess her family wanted to open up a shop, like out in way west, like in Buckeye, like where, you know, where it's booming now.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it and just sit on it and let it grow as a family investment for them. So I told her, I was like, you want to open a shop, Angela? And she was like, yeah, well, and she told me the story. And I said, why don't y'all just buy this one? And I just told her that, you know, not really jokingly, but I was kind of serious.
Yeah.
Too at the same time. And about 3-4 months later, it was hers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all along you were feeling like, okay, I got to get, this was your one of the ways to get out of the first shop. Yeah. And then tell me about the second shop. How did you, was Angel, he was working for you, or?
No, Angel just, you know, I had a few people inquire about the shop, because once they seen I pulled the trigger on the first one, then everybody's like, what are you doing with the second one? You know, what are you doing with the other one? I was like, well, I'm keeping this one for a little bit at least, you know, see what happens and stuff. And then, you know, a couple people made me offers, and they're kind of low offers or whatever. And I was like, I know, you know, this ain't the Draven's number 1 clientele wise and the history and all that, but it was location. Yeah. You know, there's no plazas on any. You got a high school over there, you got a bank over here, and then you got Walgreens on this corner, and then only this plaza here. And then, so at that point right there, it was like, I'm selling you the location. You know, it don't matter if there's 1 barber or 3 barbers in there. It's the location. That's what you're going to make it. And ended up selling it to Angel, who owns it to this day, and it's Dapper Don's Barbershop. Angela called it MQ's. The only difference in them 2 shops, though, is because of the history and what people were used to at Draven's number 1. When you walk in there, even though it's MQ's Barbershop on the door, it still looks like Draven's number 1. And nothing really changed in there. Yeah, they put a couple, you know, little fixtures or stuff like that. Stations are still the same. Chairs are still the same. Floor, everything, like ceiling fans, still the same. Yeah. Angel went in there and turned it into, you know, a number 2, made it look like, you know, the Scottsdale Barbershop or something. You know, he made it look really, really nice. It looks good, but it don't look like Draven's number 2. Yeah. But the thing is, you know, Draven's number 2 was kind of like my experiment, and it was a good investment. But I didn't have what would you call it, a connection to that one. So that one was real easy to go. Like when I let go of number one, I was kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Like it had sentimental value. My kids grew up in that shop, and then everybody else's kids. And then I was leaving my friends, the connections, everything that I had made in there, to where, I mean, a year, 2 years after that, I was still just pop in there into the shop, and people thought I still owned it. They just thought I was never there no more. Oh, what's up, big time? You don't come in your shop no more? It's like, no, I don't own it.
Not my shop no more.
Yeah, this ain't my shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so that was the tough part. Number one was getting rid because of the sentimental value. Number two, it was like just like I flipped the house.
Right, right.
So that was it.
So now you're full in on Iceberg. So tell us a little bit about Iceberg. What is it? And for those who don't know,
so
what exactly is it?
Iceberg is a product that I started with just the styling gel, and worked on it, and I mean it's been reformulated. How many times have I told you it's been reformulated?
I lost track.
10, 15 times. But what I do is I listen to the barbers, I listen to the customers. Try this, try that, and fortunately for me now, I'm in a position to where I can try that. Because chemists and reformulating and all that stuff, that's not cheap.
Right.
But the gel, after a long time of working on that, I think I finally got it right. We now even have it in a 4-ounce tube. But in that time, the next one I made was the pomade here. And the pomade took off fast because a lot of people were using pomade, the matte finished looks and stuff like that. And one thing is important to note is none of my stuff is reverse engineered, or it's not, just a private line that I bought and slapped my name on it or nothing like that. I've literally started with one product and then formulated it a bunch of times. And then the pomade, we messed with it a couple times, and the fragrances. And then, some of the other products that I have are literally from scratch.
Yeah.
We might have an idea, like I kind of like the way that one works and the way that one works. But because we have an in-house chemist now, we can play with things and we can mix and mix up everything. And, so that's one thing about my product is it's not a private line. It's not, this gel ain't, all this is whoop-de-woo gel with a different fragrance. It's like, no, there's something different in here that's different from theirs. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So that's something. I like the way this mic makes me sound. I feel like I sound like Lil Wayne in the headphones right now. Like I should be rapping or something. But either that or my voice is still raspy from last night. Yeah. So, so that's where the the product where we stand at now is, it's expanded more. Yeah. Over time I've put together some hair shows and a lot of barbers took advantage of that. And I mean, in a good way, like they actually made a lot of connections to where they're in good places now. Yeah. Because of my barber shows, they hooked up with somebody or they met somebody or, just got into, met a company there and now they're doing platform work for them and stuff like that. So I'm glad that, my hair, I don't do them no more. And I'll explain why in a minute, but, I'm glad that I did those because there are a lot of people that benefited from the hair shows. Yeah. Me, I just, it's cool to throw it and do the events and all that stuff, but man, you've done the hair shows. Q, you've done the hair shows. They're tough.
It's a lot of work.
They're tough. And then you remember the first year I did one.
Yeah.
I mean, I threw the bang. You know what I mean? It's like I dropped the atomic bomb on the first show.
Yeah.
I brought out tons of people, big civic centers and all that stuff. And that was my first one. And it worked so good that I did a second one. And then the second one had way more people and a bigger card and all that stuff. And did less than the first one. So I'm like, how does that work? I don't know. So then that's when I partnered up with, my brother Swole, rest in peace, in Albuquerque. And we started taking them on the road. We started doing shows in Albuquerque and Dallas and El Paso, Las Cruces area. I can't remember. We did a few other locations, cities. Yeah. And then he passed away a couple years ago during COVID. And then that's when I kind of just lost because when he and I were doing it, it was like me and him were just ping ponging everything at that point. And then you know,
you had a partner with the
Yeah.
same vision that could.
he had a
make
bigger.
things-
That
make
guy had
things
a bigger
happen.
vision.
Yeah,
You know, it was amazing because you know he was in prison for 10 years, and then he got out, and I met him actually. He was in barber school, and I went to that school in Albuquerque, and I did a class, a demo class, and he came to it, and man, I just seen the enthusiasm that this dude had. I mean, this dude was tattooed from head to toe.
Yeah.
And it just said prison all over him.
Right.
But his personality said, I'm hungry.
Right.
And that's the same way I was. So it's like I felt like I was like working with myself, but like 2.0.
Yeah.
Because this dude was like, he got out of prison and hit the gate and was running.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people thrived off his energy and all that. And he was very successful in the little time he had out of prison. And I was just glad I got to meet him. But yeah, once he passed, I kind of lost the passion for those shows. Because people ask me, why don't you do the shows no more? Why don't you do the barber battles and stuff like that? I was like, I don't know. My partner's gone. You know, so I just lost the passion for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you went through barbering, springboarded that to start Iceberg, you're full in on Iceberg. You were doing the shows, meeting all these people, networking, and you brought some big names to Arizona in the past. And so, what's next? What's next for Iceberg? What's next for D-Boy?
So there are things, you know, that I'm working on with some companies, as far as distribution and stuff like that. So that's what I'm focused on right now. You know, it's stuff that, you know, the outsiders don't. You know how it is when you're working the details with people and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff a lot of work that goes into it behind just putting your stuff on a counter.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere.
This is what you see today was what you were doing maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, and then now you're thinking about something else.
Yeah, like this box right here, this display box that looks like I just had it printed at Kinko's before I came over here. No, it took like 6-7 months from the you know, the beginning of it, the idea, then getting it sized to fit certain products and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work, but definitely that, you know, Iceberg, a lot of promotion is what I'm getting more into because I've always been kind of like a marketing guru, trying to figure out the best way to market on, you know, on low budgets, medium budgets, every now and then taking a, you know,
It's a big risk.
Taking a big risk like the hair shows and stuff. So right now I've actually been working with a really popular influencer, a comedian that goes by Concrete. And he's been doing stuff for us, and we got some more stuff in the works.
I saw that about the
Super Bowl.
You lost your phone. Was that?
Well, no, so I didn't lose my phone.
Right.
It's funny because I lost my phone before that.
Yeah.
Like for reals. So the whole joke of that was based off of that.
Okay.
Because while I was working details with Concrete, I like fell off the face of the earth for like 2 days. That's because I had no phone. You know how that is. Everybody knows how that is. So when he came to Phoenix and we filmed a skit, we were doing the skits for the Super Bowl. That's how it all. D-Boy lost his phone again.
Yeah.
D-Boy lost his phone. So then he went on my phone live and was making it look like I found his phone, you know, and stuff like that. And it was funny because people were actually calling like my mom and other people that could get to me.
Yeah.
Hey, D-Boy left his phone at Cobra Arcade Bar or somewhere. I forgot where the story was. And no, I was actually there the whole time, so I didn't, you know, lose it again. But that was the whole, the punchline of that one.
Yeah.
Is, you know, because I lose my phone.
Yeah.
You know, so, but, yeah, so he's definitely somebody we got more stuff in the plans with, more plans in the work with. And, yeah, just see where it goes from there. And then, you know, I got a taco business now too.
I didn't know that.
So we do street tacos, La Verdad, Tacos y Mas. And that's
where can we find that?
Now that the weather's getting a little warmer at night, again, start doing a lot of pop-ups.
Okay.
All through the end of last year, I was getting my feet wet. I was doing the high school football games.
Okay.
And at McClintock High School, I did a couple playoff games. But that was like barely getting my stuff going.
Yeah.
Now it's ready to start doing events and private events and all that. So you can, labrador.tacosemas@gmail.com to contact for any bookings on that. Private, it's not a cart. It's it's not a taco truck. It's a taco cart. So it's real traditional. Real traditional.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then I still got my other venture.
Yeah.
The chairfield.com.
Yes.
So any web designers or anything out there, I've been trying. That's a whole nother story. Yeah. We have to do a part 2 for that one, but that's my baby right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, if you had to leave any words of wisdom for someone who's watching a barber student, what would you leave them?
Oh man, if you believe that you want to do something, do it. Because I started with just the minimal stuff in a barbershop. I'm talking like, the cheapest chairs, the cheapest stations, the cheapest mirrors, and built that into something. And then it helped me to get to Iceberg. And then with Iceberg, I started with just a gel. And now I'm in a whole line, and now I'm in stores, and I've, taken it to the next level, working with influencers and, doing all that. So, and nothing in my life, like I didn't come from money, didn't come from no nice neighborhoods. Anybody that knows, either Roswell, New Mexico or South Phoenix or Guadalupe, Arizona, knows there's nothing fancy about that. And that's where I came from. So if I could do it, you could do it. There's, it should be nothing to hold you back. As long as you meet great people like Lamar, Jerome, the Leonettis and the Get Sassy family, you'll be all right. It's all about making connections. You make connections. And the main thing is like for me, I get a lot off of helping people make connections. So, anybody wants to contact me, it's iceberghaircare@gmail.com. If you need any advice about products or even just barbering, or if you have any questions, you can also contact me like on Instagram. Everything is dboycobos, DBOYCOBOS. I'm an open book, so you can contact me and I'll message you back. That's the best way to contact me is through Instagram. And, if you have any questions about the industry or advice or anything you need, hit me up.
Yes, sir. And one last question before we wrap it up. Just kind of like to end it on this. What is the most memorable, craziest thing you've ever seen happen in the shop?
That's a part 3 right there. Well, I mean, the thing that sucks is before the whole, everybody had camera phones and pictures and all that stuff. One thing that helped our business grow was we had a lot of celebrities come into our shop. And I'm talking a lot.
Yeah.
And, one of the biggest names was James Harden.
Okay, yeah.
And he came into our shop the whole time he was at ASU. And then even after he would, was in the NBA, he came in a few times, but then he kind of disappeared. I don't know where he went. He got rich, I think. And then, no, he's a cool guy. We always had a good relationship, but he was the biggest name, but we had a lot of celebrities come through there. But probably the craziest, and this ain't really like nothing like wow, like crazy that happened at the shop, but it happened because of the shop, was I could have been a billionaire a long time ago. And I say a billionaire, and I'll explain why real quick. Because James Harden, Jamel McMillan, a lot of the guys that were on the ASU basketball team at that time were all in the shop. And there was a customer of ours that was in there. And I was looking at this magazine, and in the business magazine, it always had like up and coming companies and investments and stuff. And so I was reading it, and I just happened to be talking about it out loud. And one of the customers that was in the shop, and that's why it's important for connections. You never know who's around you or who's listening or what. Guy was like, "Oh, I know the guys that are doing that and blah, blah, blah," and all that stuff. I was like, "Oh, for real?" And he was from California. And then I was like, "You know how to like deal with this? Like how to get in contact with these people?" He's like, yeah, whatever. So anyway, fast forward a little bit. This guy puts me in contact with them. and they were looking for investors. But the thing that sucks is the amount of money they were looking to invest for partial ownerships and stuff like that was just a little bit out of my reach.
Yeah.
Well, I remember James, and it's funny because still to this day when I talk with like Jamel McMillan and a couple other guys who are like in the NBA somehow, coaching, doing stuff, they're still affiliated with the NBA. This story always gets brought up.
Yeah.
Like, bro, remember when you were telling us about this and you were saying you were going to invest and we were laughing at you? And I was like, yeah. He was like, bro, they all say the same thing. It's like, dude, if we would have had the money now, we would have invested and known what it was going to turn into.
Yeah.
But I remember James and them saying, man, that's stupid. Ain't nobody going to follow what you're doing or care what you're doing, stuff like that. So I was a few $1,000s short. I even reached out to people. They didn't want to do it. Why? Because at that time, tech ideas, and this is like in 2006, 2005, tech ideas weren't like, it was like taking a big risk. Now if someone told you, hey, I got this, boom, 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 you're mortgaging in the house, right? Okay, because you know how big technology is.
Yeah.
Well, back then it was like, ain't nobody, like I said, James and them would be like, ain't nobody going to follow you.
Yeah.
I was a few $1,000s short. And you fast forward to today, that's Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Twitter. But I had my opportunity, like actually talked with the guys and everything.
Yeah. What were they asking for investment?
$25,000.
$25,000.
$25,000 to invest, just to invest in the company.
Yeah.
Not be like half owner or none of that stuff.
Right.
They already had it going.
Right.
They just needed capital
to
build it.
Yeah.
And I wanted $25,000. And I didn't have it at that time, but it's like that. I've always done the math with what they were asking.
Yeah.
And the last time I did the math and the figures was like during COVID, I think like 2020, at what it was worth right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
My share of it, it would have been close to $2 billion.
Man, that's crazy.
So
wild.
that's my craziest story. Aside from like fights happening and catching bums in the bathroom doing their stuff and little stuff like that. I mean, those stories happen in every barbershop.
Yeah.
But that's one right there that changed the whole narrative.
Missed opportunity.
It could have changed generational wealth in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But that's one of the ones. So, hey, that's some advice. Make all the connections you can. Because the one guy that was, sitting there and then we started bringing it all up, I had no idea who this dude knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's my interesting story. So instead now I just, have a house in Chandler and, I'm still grinding.
Yeah.
Could have been a billionaire, Lamar.
Could have been a billionaire.
Yeah.
But if that was the case, you and I probably wouldn't have met.
We would have. Because, I don't know if I would have met you, but I already knew Jerome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, then we would have been in the game.
I don't think you were here yet.
No, I've been here.
Okay, well, when I met Jerome, I thought, okay, then maybe you were here. I just hadn't met you.
You just hadn't met me yet.
Okay, yeah. Everybody, if you're from Phoenix, you know Jerome. You know Lamar too, but you remember Jerome just coming into your shop and, man, that dude could talk. I thought I could talk. Jerome would out-talk me back then, but I love Jerome.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you for stopping by today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you as we wrap it up. We appreciate you all tuning in to today's episode with D-Boy here from Iceberg.
Real quick, I just want to say congratulations to you too and to Q and Jerome and the whole Leonetti's and Get Sassy family, because I've watched you guys go from pulling up in front of shops and having boxes stuffed in your car.
Yeah.
You didn't have no storefronts. You didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
And you buy some razors. You guys need Sanic strips. You guys need this. And there was some times where I think just because of your hustle, I would buy a box of Sanic strips, or I would buy some, even though we didn't even need it.
Yeah.
I would just buy it. Because no one else really did that.
Yeah.
But to see you guys come from that to, where you're at now and expanding and all that, and being a minority business owner, but I don't know if we can call it minority in Arizona.
Everybody's minority, huh?
I guess I don't know, but it's great to see you, because you've done, what a lot of people dream to do. And you've done it. I'd like to congratulate you on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we've got way more to come.
Good.
This is just getting started. So, looking forward to the future. But again, we appreciate you coming by, man, and looking forward to doing more things with you. And thank you all for tuning in to the Barber Block podcast here, and where we talk to real barbers, real people, and we have real talk. And hopefully you've been inspired. Check out Iceberg. Make sure you follow them.
iceberghaircare.com.
Not only follow, but make a purchase.
Yeah, well, come into Get Sassy, Leonetti's, make a purchase, because that's, we all work together. I sell to them, they sell to you. Everybody eats. Your hair looks good.
Absolutely.
So that's the way it works.
Absolutely. And we'll see y'all next episode. Peace out.
Peace.